nothing turns out Democrats like a Trump. So thanks for being here. My name is Bill Nansen. I'm the new president of the Village's Democratic Club. We'll see if the applause is still there at the end of the meeting. But I want to say thanks for making it out. We have the itinerary of the different speakers that are going to be speaking in the order that they're going to be at. And if anybody runs really long, so we got the magic horn to remind them. But we need to start off, or we would like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you can stand if possible, that'd be great.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chain bracelet, this was found in the parking lot, otherwise it's going to be part of the raffle. Thank you very much. Thank you. We go on to the next slide, which would be, okay, one of the neat things about, we have quite a few different members, new members on the board. And one of the neat things about it is to find out the other people. You may have known them in passing and things of that nature, but when you talk to somebody, you find out what they've been involved with. And Melissa Keller here has been involved in numerous activities. And one of the things that really stood out, next slide, is that she's been involved with the activities that have been going on in both outside of the club as well as the inside. What we have showing here are all the recurring activities that the club does on a monthly basis. We're going to have this on the website for the club. So in one page, you'll see all of the activities that the club is doing. What's really handy is to print this and put it on the bathroom mirror. That way you'll never miss a really important meeting. Next slide, please. So one of the things that really stood out when I was talking to Melissa, or with Melissa, was her knowledge of the activities going on outside of the villages. In other words, outside of the club's domain. And when I got talking with her, she sent me over a communication that she sent out to her friends as well as people in the precinct. And it was off the charts. And when I saw it, I said, we need you as the speaker today. So here is Melissa to explain what she's been up to.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for welcoming me. I'm on my second year in the villages now, so it's wonderful to be here. As a retired teacher, you'll see how this goes. So next slide. So the first thing that everybody needs to do as a Democrat now is to understand what Mobilize is. It's a website, it's not an app, even though you can get an app. Everything that Democrats are doing is on Mobilize. Everything. I want to say it's almost a directive from the DNC down to the Florida DNC, down to the Marion Lake, Sumter DNC. So whenever anyone has anything, a meeting, a protest, a group, a cleanup, we're cleaning up, I saw that on there too. It is on Mobilize and it's all Democrats. And the fun thing about it, it's easy, mobilize.us. And then on there, it pulls, if you let it pull your location, it will pull events, volunteer opportunities, groups, meetings. Now the next slide, sorry. Thank you. This is the next big thing. Barbie Hardin Hall, who we all want to support and make sure she's going to represent us, right? Barbie is sponsoring a town hall. That's one of the things the Democrats are doing to try to get the Republicans to answer why they're voting for the ridiculous things like getting rid of Medicaid and things like that, right? So this town hall, we need to turn out. Villagers are powerful. Barbie loves us. And this is on Monday. So if you have Monday night, it's a little bit of a drive. It's down in Apopka. It's on Mobilize, so all you have to do is mobilize.us, and it will probably come up because it's one of the, it comes up by date, and it's obviously on Monday. So it's at 6 p.m., and there is going to be one closer than Apopka. I was told not a date yet, in Leesburg possibly, or in Lady Lake. So I will keep you informed. So, and this will all be also on the village's website, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next slide. This is the other thing you should really be aware of. Two things, Mobilize and 50501. This is a group like Indivisible. If you go to their webpage, you'll see who they're sponsored by. Inclusivity, nonviolence, conflict resolution, and they're the ones that are now staging the April 19th protest, which is next Saturday. As of right now, I've heard nothing from the villages, but nearby, Leesburg, Claremont, Mount Dora, I know that Ocala, the Blue Dots, I think they're organizing, because I know a lot of you live north of here. I think it's an important day, because April 20th is a scary day, and every day seems to be scary days for us now. And if we don't turn out, it's just gonna get worse and worse and worse. So April 19th, and if anyone has any information about the villages for April 19th, please get in touch with me or Bill or anyone you know so we can blast it, because I blast it everywhere I can find it. Next slide. Talking about where I could find things. So where do I find stuff? A lot of social media presence is important this day and age. Besides the Blue Sky, which I didn't list on here, just in Facebook, I just want you to see, I don't know if you can read it, because it's, I don't know how big it is, but I'm gonna take this for 1 second. Here's my teacher list. The Democratic Women's Club, my precinct, 557 in Lake County. The Democratic and Indie Ladies, north of 44, south of 44. Villages Democratic Club. If you don't have that, you need to get that. Precinct 116. I'm even one of our board members, Kathy Hoover. That's her precinct, but I like to know what's going on everywhere. On Lake, she's Sumter, we partner. The Democrats and Republicans, Woke Nation, woo woo, I see you out there. Florida Democratic Seniors. The villages, the United Democrats. So notice, I'm a part of all these groups, and that's where I get. Bill was so impressed that I knew so much, and that's because you gotta, as this day and age I say, the more you put out there, the more you know. And the more you know, the more powerful you are. So please remember Mobilize and 50501. I think this is my last slide. Yeah, that's not me. Thank you all, and you all have a better nation.
Thank you, Melissa. And that's the very reason why when I first saw and talked with Melissa, I said, wow, she's out there, she does her homework, and she puts it together in a very concise, very easy to follow email that she was sending out. So we're all part of the Villages Democratic Club. So the question is, how do we stay informed? Okay, on Sundays, you get the buzz every week, but things can happen, they can change quickly within the week. So where we're now putting it, in addition to the buzz, is on the website. And we have a fellow that's handling the website, he's doing an excellent job. And one of the ways that you can keep informed about what's going on, both with activities by the villages, but activities that are being sponsored by entities not of the club. So what we're looking at here is the main web page. And the way you get to it is the www.thevillages, that's a plural, Democrats. Okay, so just remember it's plural for both villages and Democrats. Okay, this is a go-to one-place shopping, how to keep informed of what's going on an ongoing updated basis. Melissa mentioned about what 50501 is having a meeting coming up, or probably a rally on this coming Saturday. Just as there's a rally a week ago, did anybody see that rally? So there are national organizations that are like us, they're nonprofit, they're volunteers, and they're out there trying to put this stuff together in a very short time period. There's no footprints in the snow, so let's be patient with what they do and realize that People who get in touch with them to actually put together one of these rallies, it takes a little while, bit of time to make it happen, so keep an eye on this over the upcoming week. So instead of sending out emails and stuff, you go to, what's the name of the website? Great. And where it says calendar, you click on calendar. And then see where it says outside events? Presto. That is where you go to get the next slide, please. This is where it pops up, and it'll tell you what the next meeting is, or what rallies are taking place, both within the villages or that are nearby. But this is how we're able to keep track of what things are the villages club doing, and then what activities, the active activities that these other entities are doing, so that we can plug and play and show up as volunteers, like last Saturday as well as this coming Saturday. If we go back to that slide just a moment. Go back, okay. One other area that we're working on, or we already have it up and going, but you may be interested in this, is that you see where it says news and resources with the red box? You click on that and you have different items that come up, and one's called economics and review. So if we go forward, one more. What do we have on there? Economics and review. There's about 9 different buttons. Just like a jukebox, you can pick a subject button, inflation, jobs, what have you. So if you hit on inflation, guess what's on there? There's graphics that are on there. Those graphics you can use to basically, so for example, if you want to know what's going on with inflation, or particularly what's going on with gas, are eggs, okay? Right, remember this? There's some guy that said first date, he's going to get the price of eggs down? Yeah. Okay, so, all right, so that was what he said he's going to do. This is how we're able to track it, okay? And these are in graphical format that you can copy and paste into an email if you're sending to a friend. If you're talking to a neighbor, you now have information that you can say, you know what? Following up on that question about eggs, this is what's going on, okay? So what is going on? The data that was released on Thursday, we are now at a record high, ever. That's what the top graph is about. The bottom graph gives you the percent changes on a monthly basis if annualized. He's not hitting his numbers. That's what you go after. This is how you can remind people about it, okay? Now, one of the neat things about this is that you can take this information, okay? Like I said, you can put it on an email, you can Facebook it, social media, or if anybody happens to be going to a rally for $4, okay? And a few people are going to probably ask you, hey, what's with the egg price thing? Now you have a talking point right then and there, especially because people at rallies take pictures, and more people will see on social media a picture of this or of your other sign. They will see that, and that will get more publicity or more eyes than anybody actually physically driving by. So that's how you can amplify the message. So if you want to take it from, oh, I was at a Saturday meeting to, oh, I'm at a rally with a sign with knowledge and information. You go to, again, the village's website, media, and then economics and review. Cool? All right, one final thing. Go one more slide. This is one we're developing out. Does anybody here go shopping for food every once in a while? Groceries. Maybe a Publix, maybe a Winn-Dixie's, a Walmart, okay, all these, okay. And what's the other one? Target, okay. So what we're doing is that we're going through, and we have 30 items that we go through every couple months, but we take a portion of that. So every month we're grabbing the prices on eggs, milk, the basic stuff that you can actually look and see if there's changes that are occurring. But also, this is a competitive price-wise. You can see which store is charging which prices. But we're using this information to track, obviously, what's going on with promises made, our promises being kept. But also, from a consumer standpoint, it's providing you with some knowledge that might be very worthwhile to know about, that you can tell your friends that, you know what, if you join the Democratic Club, you have this information available at a finger's touch. All customized, but we're doing this stuff to make it available for you. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Ash. Next slide.
I heard a new term. It's called sane washing. Not brainwashing, sane washing. Everyone in MAGA and the right-wing media is justifying what Trump is doing. And it is sane washing, and it just continues. And I wanted to talk about the inflation under Trump. Define it. Has become a much more complicated subject. The inflation has become a much more complicated subject. You saw the stock market falling. What you also saw, but maybe didn't notice, that the value of the dollar was falling at the same time. Also, the treasury bills were falling in value at the same time. And that's what spooked Trump to back off from the reciprocal tariffs. But the base tariffs are still in place. When the stocks fall in value, that means people are selling stocks. But what do they do with their money? They usually put in treasury bills. Treasury bills are IOUs from US government. So when they put money in treasury bills, the treasury bill prices rise. But that didn't happen this time. This time the treasury bills fell also. That means people are losing faith in the US government. And that has far-reaching implications. It's 80 years of trust in US government in the reserve currency, that's the dollar, and that has been evaporated in the last 3 months. That is what is happening. And I'll come back to this, but I wanted to share what I started with, just a simple buy a few items at Walmart, Publix, and compare the prices. So let me just show you those. Well, first, the unemployment has already gone up from 4.1 to 4.2%. The Dow Jones average fell 13.43% on April 4th. That's when I was making this slide. Last week has been up and down again, so more changes have happened. Good. I bought some items at Walmart, that milk, single slices of cheese, lettuce, cauliflower, bananas, and I compared the prices last week. I bought them on January 19 and then bought them again last week. The prices actually dropped 1.69% at Walmart. Next, please. And prices at Publix, I only bought 2 items, whole wheat bread and eggs. The eggs went up 10%, but the whole wheat bread remained the same price. Next. I bought gas at the Circle K station, and that went up almost 5%. So my crude way of judging inflation, I averaged all 3 price increases and price decreases. I gave half the weight to the purchases at Publix and my gas purchase. So next slide, please. So if I give half the weight to the increase in prices, full weight to the Walmart decrease in prices, I come up with 5.77% inflation. And the government just announced that in March the inflation was 2.4%. I think that is going to change remarkably and very quickly. These tariffs are taking place. The trust in the treasury bills is falling. And let me explain what happens with that trust. In the last 1 week only, the interest rates on the 10-year treasury bills have gone up by 0.5%. It may not seem like much, 0.5%, but when you have $35 trillion debt being financed by these treasury bills, that is 175 billion lost in interest only. And if this mistrust continues, let's say the treasury bills fall more in value, the interest rate increases by a whole 1%. 1% on 35 trillion is 350 billion. That 350 billion that the country has to come up with in the budget, and all these cuts at VA, Social Security, everywhere else, they would be meaningless against this kind of cuts. But that's what is happening. Also, it increases the government spending. When you increase the government spending, that will increase inflation. And let me tell you, one other source of inflation that's coming, and it's coming rapidly. With these tariffs, what Trump has done is all those low-value shipments that were coming to America, and there are 1 billion, with a B, 1 billion shipments of low value come from outside every year. These billion shipments had no tariff. The new tariff is $100 per package. That's $100 billion increase in cost to you and me. When you buy some item on the internet, you don't realize you're buying on Temu or one of those Chinese websites, and these shipments are coming directly to you. For all the shipments under $800, there was no tariff. And now there'll be a minimum $100 tariff on each one of those shipments. So things are changing extremely rapidly. Inflation is coming. The trust in U.S. government is falling. And I think this sane washing has to end sooner or later, or else we are in big trouble. Thanks.
Now you may wonder, why did I bring the horn out? Okay? Now it's not so much. What I want to do is I'm going to hand it on over to Colleen here, because we expect Anna to be on a Zoom call, and we're not exactly sure when we're going to get connection to her. So when they make connection, they will honk, okay? That will let us know that we have to cut away to get Anna on, and she'll be online. But in the interim, Debbie here is going to be speaking to us, and she'll be talking about state legislative activities that are going on, and then Anna will also be talking about things that are going on at the state level. So anyway, here's Deb.
Can you hear me? Good morning, fellow Democrats. My name is Debbie Hartman-McCulley, and I'm a member of the Democratic Women's Club of the Villages. I'm also a member, of course, of this club. I'd like to tell you today about some of the work our club is doing, and also the Democratic Club of Florida. And we will go to our slides. So the Democratic Women's Club of Florida has 67 chapters, one for each county. And basically what we are doing is we are watchdogs for the legislation. Currently, we have, well, I'll tell you when we get to the next slide. Our mission is to monitor our legislators as they debate and vote for House and Senate bills. 846 bills will be presented actually in this particular 2025 session. The Democratic Women's Club of Florida will either support or oppose those bills. Sometimes we're neutral on some of the bills. We also issue what's called blue alerts on hot bills. They will be issued to members as they come through in this 90-day Tallahassee legislative session. We need you to contact your reps, giving your position and your opinion about these particular pieces of proposed legislation. Next slide, please. The Democratic Women's Club of Florida, this is our process. There are 67 Democratic Women's Clubs in Florida, one per county. Some team members are subject matter experts, some team members are observers, and some team members are advocates or liaisons. That's me, I'm a liaison. The team uses a tracker system and a worksheet to sort the proposed bills. Now, we don't do all of the bills. Obviously, we can't do 1,846 bills, but we have certain categories that we concentrate on. Then the subject matter experts put notes on the worksheet for the team to read, and the team also updates any changes or voting decisions on a bill during this 90-day period. Once per week during the legislative session, the team Zooms to discuss or vote on current proposed legislation. I do get to vote, but I cannot write notes on the worksheet because I'm kind of new and I'm just a liaison, but maybe next year. Hot bills are discussed and a determination is made if it should become a blue alert, and then we alert members. Next slide, please. There are 12 legislative topics that the Democratic Women's Club of Florida are watching currently. We have civil, human rights and immigrant rights, criminal justice and legal rights, education, economy and infrastructure, environment, gun safety, health and safety, LGBTQIA+, state preemption, voting rights, women, children, and elders, and miscellaneous things like housing, insurance, etc. Next slide, please. I'm the legislative liaison. So I'm a listener and a communicator. I'm part of the weekly DWCFL Zoom team, and I'm the person who records important legislative bills for our club, the Villages Club. Any text changes that happen in the bills, and that happens continuously, and submissions to subcommittees. There are multiple subcommittees that these bills have to go through before they get voted on by the House or the Senate. I also notify the president, Sue Dunman, of the Villages Democratic Women's Club about blue alerts or hot bills that need our support and opposition from the membership. Next slide, please. Blue alerts, what are they? Blue alerts are priority bills that need your voice and your opinion. The DWCFL team monitors, discusses, and votes a position on these hot bills. We then alert members to call or email their representative to voice opinions. Now, I do this about once a week. It only takes a telephone call, and they have a lovely staff who usually takes your comment. It's very easy, and you can discuss the issue with the staff member if you like to. Or you can email them, which is very easy too. Personally, I type up my email, copy it, and then paste it into each of the legislators' contact sheets. So when you do, let's see. Yeah. Every call is registered and counted by the representatives and senators' staffs. And every call or email makes a difference. So please share the blue alerts with your friends, your neighbors, and your family here in Florida, because we need all the support we can get. Next slide, please. Oh, there's nothing on there. Basically what that one said is, please become a part of the process, do something, as Michelle Obama said. It only takes 5 minutes, and we need all of you to call your representatives and voice your opinion. Now, I do have the names, the numbers of a few blue alert numbers if you're interested. I unfortunately didn't make a slide, but I'll tell you basically what they're about. There's just a few. HB 1205 is an initiative petition for constitutional amendments. So basically what that does is they're proposing one amendment, like one question on the ballot per election cycle. And it mandates financial reporting, and it requires petition circulators to undergo training. And listen to this, it requires the sponsors to post $1 million bond before they can do it. Basically what they're doing is they're cutting the grassroots out of election. It's election suppression, voter suppression. We have another one called HB 79, refers to minimum age for firearm purchases or transfer. I spoke to the staff about this because I'm a retired high school teacher. HB 759 reduces the minimum age from 21 years old to 18 at which a person may purchase or transfer a firearm. Opposed, of course, these are all opposed. The next one is HB 1225 and SB 918, that's the Senate bill. It's employment of minors. Women, children, remove certain insignificant employment restrictions to the state's child labor laws for minors aged 16 and 17. Basically, this is allowing kids to be working till like 11 o'clock at night, on a school night. Yeah, I'm against that too. I have plenty of high school kids sleeping in my class because they were working at our days until midnight. And then HB 1505 is about parental rights. This is a women and children's bill, and it would make it impossible for minors to get health care without parental consent. Now, the health care we're talking about is, let's say you're 16 years old, having sex with your boyfriend, girlfriend. You get syphilis. Do you want to go to your mother and say, Mom, could you sign this paper so I could get an antibiotic shot? Probably not. I wouldn't want to do that when I was 16. Luckily I wasn't in that position when I was 16. But basically, that's what they're asking. Okay, so even to get any kind of condoms, birth control, STD checkups, tests, any of this, you have to have parental permission. So, I'm opposed. I don't know about And there's one more that just came up the other day. It's called HB 1539. It's a full book banning. Yes. Somebody said, excuse me? Okay. It takes out several categories, including science texts that may be considered, quote, harmful to minors. No, I'm an English teacher. That's all I have to say. So thank you very much. Please support us. Come join our club. We've got plenty of spots.
Okay, I believe Anna's on. Can we hear the horn, please? With that, can you hear it?
Can you hear us, Anna?
Hey, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
That stage. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Anna, you're live. We have about 200 people here waiting to hear from you, so feel free to start in.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Everyone can hear me okay, right? It's fun next door. Oh, look at that room. Y'all look amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me join y'all today. Sorry, we're just about to park. We just finished a community cleanup in my district, and we have packed. And so I appreciate y'all letting me zoom in. I know usually I love to be there in person. I would love to join you if my schedule wasn't as crazy as it is. And so thank you so much for making space for me. And for those who don't know me, my name is Anna Viescamani, proudly serving you the floor just again, thank you to for advocacy and leadership, especially in an area like the Villages, where often the Villages is seen as written off, by national Democrats, and yet every single election cycle, every single day, you continue to organize, you continue to show up, you continue to protest, and hold the line on the extremism we see coming from both the Trump administration and the DeSantis administration. And so, of course, quick background on me before I dive into what's taking place during this I was first elected in 2018 to serve District 42 of the Florida Legislature, but I grew up in Orlando as a daughter of working class immigrants. My parents came from different parts of Iran, but met each other working at the same donut shop in Orlando. So a true American love story. And I had a twin sister, big voted Aria, and my parents sacrificed so much for their children to have access to the American dream. And in that experience, it inspires me to continue my family's legacy to be the strongest advocate for Floridians. And a part of that, I credit to my mom, who passed away when I was 13 years old after a long fight with cancer, because she really instilled in me a commitment to selflessness, a commitment to be brave, courageous, every fight, whether personal, professional, or political. And of course, it's so important for us to honor those no longer with us through action. And that propelled me to get involved when I was at UCF as an undergrad with different organizations, the Democratic Women's Club. So big shout out to the amazing women who make up TVDC, and of course our allies, because these are some of the first mama bears that I had when I was a student at UCF, who really invested in me and supported me and guided me as I became more involved in campaigns and overall Democratic politics. Many folks might know me from my work also at Planned Parenthood. Before I ran for office, I worked at my local Planned Parenthood affiliate. I was a patient at Planned Parenthood as well, and I eventually rose to become the Senior Director of Public Affairs and Advocacy across 22 counties, fighting back against abortion bans, against attacks on reproductive health. And when I walk in the Capitol, chasing lawmakers to push on these issues, now I march into the chamber, unapologetically for these same issues and more. And so that brings me to present day, where we are right now. Certain, unpredictable, and candidly scary times. Because I know for me, every time I turn on the news, every time I get a news alert, or I see what's on the agenda, both in Congress and in my own legislature here in Florida, I am distracted and appalled by the degree of insanity coming from these different institutions of power. And it can feel like a waterfall that just isn't stopping, right? And so what we're focused on at the state level is, of course, trying to solve everyday problems. Because I think it's really important as Democrats, and I flipped my seat from red to blue in 2018, and I've kept it that way now, back to back with 4 election cycles. And what I've learned in that experience is the importance of showing up for your constituents, regardless of what's happening politically. Because despite the chaos at the national level, people have their individual chaos that we have to help address, whether it's food insecurity, rental assistance, opening up a small business and navigating bureaucracy regarding that, or denies and access to care. Our legislative office is small, but we are mighty. And we are constantly solving problems to help our constituents be able to reach their fullest potential. But at the same time, we're also on the ground organizing, building unified resistance against what's coming out of both Trump and DeSantis. And the good news for us in Florida is that Trump and DeSantis are actively fighting one another. There is clear tension between these two figures in the Republican Party, and we have to leverage that to our own gain. And so in the legislature, we are not only joining Republican colleagues in calling out the governor for his abuse of public dollars, for his corrosive and corruptive behavior, but of course, because they need us to help override gubernatorial vetoes, it's also allowed us to get some of our bills passed. And I have to be very candid, this is probably the most robust session I've seen with Democratic bills actually moving the process. incredible. They're necessarily these huge policy changes that I would like to see as it pertains to issues like climate change or gun violence prevention or housing assistance, but they still are bipartisan policies that are moving forward, being led by Democrats, and it's really only happening because of this dynamic where not only is our speaker more open to collaboration, but we're needed intentionally to override vetoes. So we're leveraging that as much as we can to protect our constituents, to restore transparency in our state government, and to hopefully be able to deliver results for our constituents, which will help on the campaign trail next cycle. I do want to real quick just elevate some of the concerns that I'm seeing right now and provide whatever type of next steps or action items that I can, and then I'd love to open it up for questions and see what's top of mind for you. If some of the challenges we have at the federal level include the weaponization of almost every executive arm and agency to pursue a far-right fascist agenda. And so that includes, of course, public dollars being taken away from universities or taken away from local governments or nonprofits unless you comply to specific criteria set by the Trump administration. Of course, we also see in the realm of immigration, just some of the most extreme policies as it pertains not just to individuals who are undocumented, but to individuals who have documentation status. Just yesterday, the Trump administration has decided to rescind temporary protected status for thousands of Afghan refugees here in the United States. These are individuals that came to this country with documentation. They were invited to come to the United States, and now are going to be forced to go back to a war-torn country where women do not have rights, and of course, an environment where they might be in danger because they came to the United States in the first place. And it's not just happening to Afghan refugees. We see for our Haitian community members, our Venezuelan community members, many who are the backbone of Florida's economy, also now being sent into a spiral because their TPS status is coming to an end. And I had to break the news to a Winter Park high school student who has a full ride to go to UCF, that because his TPS is going to expire, he may not be able to actually continue his aspirations for higher education in this country. And so these are some of the difficult realities that we're facing with. So how do we fight back, right? I really encourage everyone to not only continue to speak out and to call out the hypocrisy and to break some of the stigma that has been spread, whether it's about the immigrant community or the LGBTQ plus community, that we need to combat not just the policy, but also the cultural rhetoric, right? The efforts to shift culture away from progress is a key component of the Trump administration. It's not just about policy, they're also trying to change hearts and minds by placing political actors into historic institutions of arts, like the Kennedy Center, by, of course, eroding public education and trying to dismantle the Department of Education, which has been the guardrail to protect diversity and non-discrimination practices and so forth. The Trump administration knows that the future is not in their favor, and so they're trying to shift the future to support their agenda, support their far-right extremism. So we need to hold the line at a local level, and not only, again, calling out this hypocrisy, but of course, sharing stories, uplifting the positive impact and the positive stories of these impacted communities to help address the exploitation of what I like to call the mushy middle voter, right? The voter who's kind of in the middle, who is just reacting to information that is shared with them, but doesn't necessarily have all the facts, right? And they're very impulsive in how they vote and how they engage with their peers. We have to meet those folks where they're at, belly to belly, which is why I'm a firm believer of community events like this, of door knocking, of really being on the ground with our community partners. Sometimes in non-political environments. As I mentioned, we just wrapped up a community cleanup in my district, and that's not a really political event, but as I was picking up trash and cleaning up the neighborhood, you have conversations. You have conversations with the folks who work at the store across the street, with folks who are managing security for the plaza, for folks who are picking up their groceries, picking up their kids. You start having these face-to-face conversations, and you're building trust with community members in ways that you can't always do when you're on the campaign trail, because you just don't have enough time, right, to actually have those heart-to-heart conversations. So we have to continue to engage at the grassroots level, of course, organize and show up at protests. There's been a lot of exciting energy around holding Republicans accountable in conservative districts because we're seeing this backlash to Trump. I know we just had the special elections in District 1 and 6. Of course, we didn't win those races outright, but we moved in the sense of tightening the gap in historic ways. And that's a great indicator for what we could do in 2026 if we stay focused and knock on doors and build up voter registration and win people back that we've lost over the years. And so the last one we'll make for open up for questions is the importance of different nonprofit organizations right now in supporting them as a means of harm mitigation, right? So we have great partners here in the Orlando area, including Orlando Center for Justice, including Hope Community Center. These are two organizations that specifically work with our immigrant community in providing pro bono legal aid support, in providing respite, in providing English classes. You know, they're on the ground every day working with impacted community members, and their work now is more valuable than ever. So support organizations who are doing this type of community building every single day and have a history of doing that. I also want to give a shout out to our labor partners. You know, we have such amazing unions in Central Florida, from teachers unions to our airport workers, MCO, to Disney workers. And these are folks who are organizing in a very hostile environment that need our support. And so to continue to show up for our labor partners in a meaningful way. Abortion funds. Abortion funds are nonprofit organizations that are raising private dollars to support women in accessing abortion across state lines. Planned Parenthood is now doing this as well. Our Planned Parenthood affiliates have what are called healthcare navigators, and they almost are serving the role as travel agents, helping patients who are beyond 6 weeks and be able to access care. And so supporting these organizations that are on the ground doing this work, from environmental groups to Quality Florida to the ones I just listed, is very essential if we're going to survive this moment in American and Florida history. And so with that, I'm happy to talk more about legislative session. We are near the tail end of legislative session. There are, I mentioned some good bills moving, but also unfortunately a lot of bad bills, including legislation to target the citizen-led ballot initiative process, efforts to define fetuses and embryos as children just passed the House floor this week. So I'm happy to grab any question that you have, whether it's about politics or legislative session or anything in between. And I just thank you again for the opportunity to share space with you.
Anna, thank you so much. I do appreciate passing along the information like that. And I do see somebody here, looks like she has a question for you.
Awesome.
Mary, you have a question.
We're bringing the microphone on over, Anna. I don't know if you can see this.
Thank you for attending our Zoom meeting today, Anna. I think everyone here really appreciates what you are doing. On Monday, there's going to be a town hall, citizens town hall meeting in Apopka in Daniel Webster's Florida number 11 district. It's going to be at the John Bridges Community Center. My question to you is, would you be able to attend that meeting with David Jolly?
I love that question. And I'm grateful you uplifted it because I know the Orange County Democratic Executive Committee, which of course I'm an engaged member with, is helping to plan that event, and we are promoting it through our social media accounts. Unfortunately, I will be in Tallahassee for legislative session. And so I won't be able to physically be there. We're helping to help boost it, promote it. And I would love to come to a future citizen town hall, because I think it's so important for us to lead on these type of accountability campaigns. We're actually organizing similar efforts with some of our local and state house seats as well, because we have multiple state house races here in Orange County that we can flip next cycle. But unfortunately, because we're legislative session, I have to go back to Tallahassee Sunday night. So I'm only in my district for about 2 days. I can only come home on the weekends because we do have a packed legislative session calendar. But I'm really excited for this event, and I'm grateful that everyone is a part of it. We got to keep putting the pressure. And remember, part of the Republican playbook, especially for some of these Republicans that don't necessarily, they weren't part of the Trump wave, if you will, right? They kind of came to power before MAGA, but they're co-signing MAGA. These Republicans, their playbook is to stay under the radar as much as possible. They don't want to be in the news, right? They try to avoid it. So the more we force a question on them, the more we make it uncomfortable and awkward where they have to respond to Trump because we force the conversation, the better. Because then you're going to have a cycle of news stories and Google searches that will amplify their extreme positions as it pertains to Donald Trump. Or if they dare challenge Donald Trump, it hurts them in their Republican primary. So it's such a smart tactic, and I'm really grateful that you're a part of it.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. And when you go back to Tallahassee on Monday, give them hell.
Do we have another, we have one hand over here. Go ahead and stand up and just touch the microphone.
Surrounded by microphones. I have a question about how can the current administration declare people dead? And do you think that this is why DOJ staff wanted to be given access to Social Security information?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I mean, I don't think legally they can, right? But the issue is that they don't care what's legal or not. And so there's just no check and balances. And I also think that DOJ wanted access to Social Security really to profit off that data. I mean, we're talking about Elon Musk, who is one of the most dangerous men in the world. And all he operates by is money. Money is his gold star. And access to all the data of the American people, I mean, if you can integrate that into your ad targeting or sell that data to others, I mean, that's billions of dollars of revenue for Elon Musk and his fellow cronies. But I will say, there's so much incompetency in the Trump administration right now, and I think we have to call that out. Like, this is an amateur hour. These are not folks who know how to govern. They should be nowhere near the White House. Such sensitive information, and I am seeing more and more national Democrats make that point of just highlighting how this administration is deeply incompetent and untrustworthy. Because I do think that talking to everyday voters, individuals that are not necessarily aligned with the political party, as I mentioned, I call it sometimes the mushy middle, right? Folks who are kind of just living their lives and don't necessarily have a political loyalty, but they capture bits of information here and there. We need those folks who understand the incompetency of the Trump administration, how they're not addressing your economic situation, they're not making it easier to buy a home, they're not strengthening the safety of your neighborhoods. Because those are folks that don't always respond to political rhetoric, right? They don't always respond to some of the issues that I know are motivators for me to get involved. So we also have to meet folks where they're at, and I think, to your point, highlighting that question and bring that up, right, to a group of friends, and again, not approaching it in a partisan way, but just highlighting why on earth does Elon Musk need information to some sensitive data? What think about that, right? And kind of use it to start a conversation with folks who might not always, again, be political, but would agree that the situation right now is, and it's not making your life any better.
Well, a follow-up question to that then would be, if they're declared dead and they have insurance, can the family collect on the insurance?
We're looking around for more questions. Don't scratch your head. Raise your hand if you have a question. Now's the time to ask.
I see a hand in the back, I think.
We have a question coming
Yeah,
up
great
here.
technology. This is awesome.
So I think we're all aware of the big signal gate situation and then the insider trading that just took place this week when Trump told his cronies this would be a good time to buy. Are the Democrats making a major big deal out of all of that? Because all of that should be totally brought to the forefront.
Yeah, that's such a great question. So I'll speak about what we're trying to do in the legislature at the state level, and then I can speak a little bit to federal. So in the Florida Capitol, I can tell you very candidly that Republicans are avoiding these conversations as desperately as they can. So we are looking at efforts to force the conversation. So for example, I filed an amendment to this really bad unemployment bill. It's a bill that makes it harder for Floridians to access unemployment compensation. I filed it about tariffs. It basically says that if the President of the United States puts into place irrational tariffs that put the country into economic upheaval, that every Floridian gets an extension of their unemployment benefits by 8 weeks. And of course, that amendment is not going to pass, but my point is to force the conversation on tariffs because my colleagues try to avoid it. And we are looking for opportunities to do the same thing, to force the conversation on Signalgate, force the conversation. I mean, we actually have been really aggressive on Doge in particular, because we actually have a bill that's a Florida version of Doge. So we've been very aggressive in highlighting how dangerous that is, how much of a train wreck the U.S. Doge is, and how we should not mimic a similar policy here in Florida. So at the state level, when it comes to messaging, we are trying to, of course, amplify, and we don't necessarily have the jurisdiction to do investigations, if you will, but at the congressional level, I think the challenge we have is that national Democrats seem to be disorganized, right? And you just have different degrees of elected officials who have different comfort levels in how they want to approach this constitutional crisis. I'm very hopeful that the DNC will be more organized. They have new leadership, and again, the new leadership has only been in place for a month or so now. And in fact, two of the DNC vice chairs came to Orlando last weekend and took questions from some of our DC members and so forth, which was a good experience, but you can definitely tell that they're still getting their grounding of how really to fight back. But I can speak to my member of Congress, Maxwell Frost, who is very aggressive on all these issues and lifting to, as you said, insider trading. I also saw both senators from Georgia, John Ossoff in particular, has been very aggressive on this issue. But again, to be very transparent with y'all, the problem we have is there are a lot of Democrats who also own stocks in Congress, and that's wrong. And so we really have to hold ourselves to the same standards that we're promoting, right? And so I do think that we always face this challenge, even when it comes to corporations and the influence of corporations in our politics. I'm one of the few Democratic elected officials who doesn't raise money, for example, from the tourism industry, from the sugar industry, from phosphate mining. Like, I don't accept explicit money to these companies. But I'm the exception, I'm the norm. And so these bills will come before us, especially from these big companies, and they're not good bills. And we have a bill coming to my State Affairs Committee next week. That's a big priority for Mosaic, the phosphate mining company. And some Democrats have voted yes on this bill, even though it's environmentally very concerning piece of legislation. So we do have to not only continue to elect and willing and have that broad appeal to the everyday voter who agrees that you shouldn't able to own and sell stock in Congress. But we also have to hold our own who are currently elected to that standard, because we can't create something that we're also practicing, right? So I think that's part of the challenge that we have. But the good news is that in Florida, we have some amazing champions that are holding that high, but we definitely need to fight more.
Thank you very much. It looks like we're almost at the 11 o'clock time period, so we have one more question in the back here.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. I understand that Arizona and Michigan Attorney Generals have initiated websites for people who are having issues with Social Security to receive that data in order to make actions against the federal government regarding Social Security. Is Florida planning on doing anything like that to help residents of Florida when they have issues with the Social Security?
It's a great question. I do not see Florida doing that at all. Unfortunately, it's such a great change and example of what blue states are doing, right, to help citizens to fight back. Unfortunately, in Florida, and I say this not as a hyperbole, we have one of the craziest and most extreme attorney generals in the country right now. And many of you might not be aware of this because it happened very quickly. Governor DeSantis appointed Ashley Moody to replace Marco Rubio as U.S. Senator from the state of Florida. He also appointed his chief of staff, James Boothmeyer, to be the Attorney General of our state. And James Boothmeyer is crazy and so incredibly dangerous. This is a young man, he's maybe in his 30s, incredibly extreme. He is attacking private companies who have DI programs. He recently sued Target. This is the state of Florida suing a private company because they sold Pride merchandise. He's the mastermind behind the public money that was spent during Amendment 3 and Amendment 4. I really do feel like that James Boothmeyer believes he was sent here by God to do this type of extreme work. Like, he is a Christian nationalist, and he's running to maintain his position as state attorney. I have no doubt that there will be a Republican primary, because I suspect that there will be a Trump-endorsed candidate to run against him. I worry that it could be Matt Gaetz that runs against him for Attorney General in the Republican primary. So I know it's hard to believe this, as I know, and as gross as Matt Gaetz is, I actually think that James Boothmeyer is more dangerous than Matt Gaetz, like, as it pertains to his extremism. I mean, it's a very low, bar that I'm talking about here, but he's a very dangerous individual. And so he's actually threatening to remove elected officials. I mean, he's just a really bad dude. So that is more reason for us to organize for 2026, because remember, the closest that we have come as Florida Democrats to winning the governorship, and when we elected Nikki Fried as Commissioner of Agriculture, that was all in 2018, the midterm election following Trump's first election. So if we're looking at patterns, and we're looking at the swinging of that pendulum, 2026 is potentially going to be our best shot to win back some seats, to flip statewide seats and to flip local legislative seats. And so we got to do the work now. We have to be at the doors now. We have to be doing vote by mail renewal right now, because I do sense the momentum that we have, but we just can't take it for granted, because we do have an opportunity to flip some of these seats as a backlash to what Trump is doing across the country. Y'all can come for me. I look forward to being back in person very, very soon. And if you want to keep in touch with us at Team Anna, we do have a weekly legislative newsletter that goes out every Monday. And you can sign up at our website, which is annaforflorida.com. I also should mention that I turn out this year, so I'm ending my 8 years in the Florida legislature in 2026. But I'm really excited to share that I am running for mayor of the city of Orlando. More about what happened during legislative session, and of course elevating what's next for the future of our work and the future of Florida. So thank you so much again for having me, and keep up the amazing work.
Before we conclude, I would also like to acknowledge the Diane and Dennis Foley, who have been the president and vice president, as well as for 6 years of involvement in many activities within the club. They recently have sold their house, and they are, as we're talking, they're headed to Michigan. And I would like to do, if we could all give a big wave, because I'm going to take a picture, and we're going to send this to them as a thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
So much for my kids' camera. One other thing is that as taking this position as a volunteer to be the president, I've been with Dennis and Diana over the past couple months and to see how many hours that they put in to help make the club what it is. It's humbling to try to pick up what they're doing. I now understand what it's like to follow Walter Cronkite. With that, thank you so much for putting up with us, and we'll see you next month.